Welcome to week 6, Estonia, where I've got a cup of tea and a candle. In today's video, I'm going to be switching things up a little bit. I am going to play Jess and Zach and show how I think this convo could have gone so much better. But I want to keep it a little bit more light and fun and talk about those key things. Now, don't forget to subscribe to that button and let's dive in. Welcome to Reality TV Therapy with me, Dr. Diane. Welcome back. A little light housekeeping because I have to tell you I've had a huge week. So a couple things I want to send you to. I was on Dave Neal's podcast, his YouTube video, where we talked a lot about what do I think is really happening with Zach in these last few weeks. In particular, this was after episode 5. Last week I was on Dave Neal. And then I was on Reality Steve's podcast, which just dropped on Thursday. I'm going to put those both in the show notes. Talking with Reality Steve about attachment theory and what I also think is now happening with Zach. This was filmed after episode 6. And then I did an IG live with Leah from Positively Uncensored, and we talked a lot about Zach and what I also think is going on. So I have been doing a lot of content about Zach because it's at this point that me as a therapist, that stuff gets juicy and everyone wants to understand what's going on. So I want to refer you to all of those pieces. And that's why I also want to make this video a little bit different, because I feel like we all have a chance, and so many of the comments have been so negative about like, oh my gosh, this is happening and that's happening. And what I really want to do is make this a point of learning, to say we're all human, but let's just keep trying to think about how to do things slightly better. And that's where the learning is, without name calling, without blaming, without pointing, but really just say, okay, let's see how we can improve upon this just a little bit. All right. So before I get into the meat of the show, and I'm going to flip-flop some hats and try to make that a little bit more interesting, I want to talk about the 2 one-on-ones, because I feel like what happens is that these women, Charity and Ariel, who had great one-on-ones, they get kind of lost when we get caught in the muck about all this other negativity. And it just seems so unfair, because I thought Charity and Ariel both did a tremendous job, right? Charity, her date in Estonia with Zach, she is always so fun. She's natural. She was wearing that beautiful green. And here she is, all of a sudden, she's flipped upside down in Estonia. She's on a, horse-drawn carriage. That's so fun. But then she's like smelling Zach's butt crack in the wife carry thing. And then Jessie is a spectator in the crowd. Like, okay. And Zach actually did pretty well. Like, he's running fast. And I'm thinking, yes, thankfully they put a helmet on the women. But that was so fun. And she's a good sport. They're going to all these little shops. I just thought that was great. And speaking of Charity's date, there's something obviously that we need to talk about, and that was the whole episode with Kat. Can I steal you for a moment? And then that issue with Brooklyn. So not too many people can come forward and say, Kat, you did the right thing. And Kat's been one of the front runners. Zach has had a lot of feelings towards her. He's obviously attracted to her. But if you recall, it was even earlier with Anastasia where all the girls said, we want to sort of share the time equally. And Kat goes outside of that and then steals him as if they were at a cocktail party, which they're not. It is clearly Charity's date. Now, Brooklyn, on the other hand, comes at it and does get a fair amount of screen time. She's got line after line about lace those shoes up and how dare you. And to me, I really felt like neither one of them is going to win, because we know this. Because when you are part of any kind of drama story, And especially with Zach saying no drama, it's not going to work for either of them. Now, Kat then is even talking to Ariel. And Ariel, in a really nice way, I thought one of the best lines of the night was something about respect trumps other things. Great, fair. That is all very true. Now, what I've also heard, and of course they don't air this, is that these two women, because Kat felt very attacked by everyone, she was told, she was schooled, you shouldn't have done this. And so apologies were made, but we don't see that. And so the rest of us are left to believe that there is still all this ongoing tension. And the one thing that I felt was just a little bit too much on Brooklyn's part is when now Charity, so Brooklyn has handled it. She has shared with Kat how she feels about it. She didn't like it. We know that. And now Charity comes back to talk to Kat, and Brooklyn interrupts and says, well, what if this was someone else? And that's the part where I thought, okay, we've gone too far now. Again, I'm guessing that Zach probably gets wind of this because all the women are very transparent. And that may be something that just has blown Kat's chances, and Brooklyn's for that matter too, because I don't know if I saw the same kind of connection, like for instance, that we're seeing with Katie and even Gabby, who I think has a really nice connection with him. And I think laying low and not getting involved in the drama is more the way to go on these. Forget thinking of it as a game. We have to talk about relationship skills, and Zach clearly wants a nice woman who is kind. He's said it many times, and that to me just missed the mark. Now, Ariel's date 2, she brought it, right? The steam is literally coming off this hot woman. It's freezing cold. This woman is talking about getting ready for the sauna and the spa, and I'm thinking, how does one actually get ready for this date? Both her and Zach are comparing like their toes being frozen, and she's in this like beautiful Baywatch bathing suit, and they're getting a bunch of like leaves on themselves from this brush that does not look very comfortable. And then when that naked couple walks in, I'm like, girl, I do not know how you are holding a straight face. But what's fascinating is somebody said in the comments that this, in particular, these saunas and these spas are very common in Europe. And I've heard of that. Certainly people do cold plunges and saging and all of that. But oftentimes, usually those are separated by the sexes. So you've got your women's sauna and your man's sauna, and not oftentimes this kind of couple together. And then when the couple shows up in the hot tub, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I did a post about this. Like, this reminded me of the SNL skit. Did you ever see that one? It's hysterical. Google it, just SNL hot tub, and where they're in the hot tub and it's this like crazy thing and oh, my lover. Anyway, it's just so funny. So it reminded me of that. But here's the thing. Also in the evening date, have you noticed that the theme for this whole series in particular is something that I want to talk about? I'm going to get to it when I talk about Jess, but this book, okay? How to Win the Bachelor. In the book, they talk about something called the personal tragedy card, the PTC. It even has an initial for it. It's where during the evening portion, usually of the date, where you share something that's really hard. And I'm just feeling like this PTC is being overused. I completely understand that a lot of the women have had negative experiences. But this is not real world dating, right? Because do you really lead on the first date with something like that? No, there's usually real dating is more like a warm-up, or you say on a date, yeah, I had a crappy ex on date 1. And then maybe on date 3 or date 4, you really get into the meat of that if you feel like things are going well. But here, the emphasis is on leading with that. And I think it's important to differentiate because Zach actually is doing a fine job with those. And that's why all the women, and I think the women are thinking he's doing great, he's decisive, he's taking his journey seriously, he's genuine, he's there for the right reasons, all good, right? But Zach shines when the story is about somebody else. He is. He's attentive. He's listening. Oh, that must be hard. I'm so sorry you went through that. You deserve more. You're beautiful. He's good with that, okay? And I just want to give him credit for that. But where things go bad is when Zach then, and I've talked about this in all these different places, really feels like the feedback to him is personal, that somehow he's letting the women down, that he has caused them to be hurt. And that's the part that I think is the miss. And that's why we see him flip quickly. We saw him flip with Greer. Now we're seeing him flip with Jess. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about that group date because that witchy witch was weird. Okay. And I think the women did as best a job as they could, but the looking at the candle in your eyes, and then they showed it at the end where they're like saying something into the fire. I love my job. Katie says, Jess says, I love Taylor Swift. And Zach says, I love Twix. By the way, you have to make sure that you are following my Instagram page because he's called Zach the Snack, right? Well, my husband has been doing these little video things and they go away on my stories because it's only 24 hours where we're doing Zach with snacks. I don't know if you've seen it, but he's just hysterical. And this week I put it in the highlights. He was, in Estonia with Twix because Zach had said that he loves Twix. So anyway, I'm just finding that really funny, Zach with snacks. Okay, make sure that you check that out and please get the notifications. All right, but let's go back to Jess and that group date, right? The flame goes out and I want to just dive deep into this part now, talking really about Jess and Zach, because here's the thing. I'm a couples therapist and I want to see these things from both sides. I'm not polar on one side. I'm not team Jess. I'm not team Zach because I completely get it. I can see it from both people's sides. And I want to break down this concept a little bit more because I talked about how Zach got flooded, what that means to be flooded by Jess. And Jess had so much anxiety, so much negativity, and I want to talk about where that was coming from. So let's be neutral. Let's recognize they're human. And let's just see how we can't make this a little bit better because I feel like they both just needed more skills. Jess is only 24. Zach is only 26. But it could have gone so much different if the emotions themselves were handled in different ways. And as I said, I think Zach has done some things fine, but this is an area of growth for both of them. Okay, so let's talk about Jess first and what she did and what she could have done instead. So we already know what Jess did do. She, I imagine, okay, I'm going to stop again. And I'm not endorsing this book per se. I'm just saying I've read it. And, well, I'm more than 3/4 away. But a lot of the book talks about what's also making these women super anxious. And in fact, there was just a video that came out that Gabby was caught reading the book. Now, it's good for Chad and Lizzie on Game of Roses to endorse their book that other people are reading it. But here's what's leading to Jess's anxiety. Jess knows that if she does not get a one-on-one by week 6, that her chances of winning, meaning making it to the end, are very low. Only Catherine on Sean Lowe's season got the date on date 6 and made it to the end. No one else has. So what's happening is the anxiety is mounting for Jess. It's week 6, and people said, well, Ariel got the date on week 6, but Ariel got the date, and Jess didn't. So Jess is clearly freaking out. If I don't get the date by by week 6, I am not going very far. She cannot get over that. And then she starts spiraling. And then she's thinking these women have progressed beyond me. So all of this is part of the background. Now we also see she's very anxious with the women too. It's not just with Zach. Gabby is trying to talk her down, but she's just not hearing it. So I feel like this is just not, so this message that the women have about how to win the Bachelor, it's like hard to unsee that. Okay, first it's, I should share my personal tragedy, and next it's about kind of the timing of all of these things. So now Zach has this information too, right? We already know that for all the leads, usually early on, they have their favorites, of course. And we know that Jess is probably not one of those. And Zach knows this too. And this is what's so crazy making about the circumstance. He knows damn well that if Jess doesn't get the one-on-one, that is a big deal. And so that conversation just goes wonky because he's trying to tell her it's not important when we know it is. And that is what is so hard for people. But Zach is in a tough position too. Can we just be real about this? The Bachelor has one job, and that is to keep everyone on the hook to think that it might be them, so that in the end he has more choices. Because what would happen now if all the women after week 6 just get up and leave? Okay? So we've got I guess the final 4 who are going to go to hometowns, but we don't have all those other filler people. And right now we started out the night with 9. Greer's not there, so that's 8. Then you get my point, that then everybody else kind of leaves. And that would be really awkward. So he can't really just make up another one-on-one. He's also got to kind of keep that going. And that is part of, truly, it is a bit of a game. And I just want to put out there. So that's the difficult part about it. Okay, so now we've got this scene, and Jess is clearly spiraling. And Zach then comes to Jess and says, he starts out the convo, probably not thinking much about this. Hey, Jess, can I steal you? How are you doing? At least the edited versions that we see that. And Jess, in this edited version, launches right into the one-on-one. And she's in her anxiety, full blown. Poor girl is probably having a panic attack. I don't think that this is not happening. I don't want to minimize Jess's feelings. But she does now mention the one-on-one many times. One-on-one, one-on-one, one-on-one. And we can just see Zach. He flips. And you notice when Zach is having a hard time with something, he touches his chin. He did it at the beginning when he was talking with Jessie. And Jessie said, oh, big week, something. And so my sense is they filmed this after the difficult week. But he does it a second time. He kind of touches his chin. And I think, oh, that's the sign that something has changed. So, but Zach handled that pretty well. Nice chat. And here is the piece, and I'm going to use my pink love hat because she has a pink hat, and now I'm Jess, okay? This is how I think Jess could have done this differently. Hey, Zach. Oh my gosh, where has the time gone? Wow, I missed you. So happy and so glad that you're feeling better. It's not the same being in London and Estonia without you. Now, can we talk about something? I gotta tell you, we gotta talk about on that group date when my candle went out just like that. That was kind of freaky, but let me tell you this, my flame is not going out for you because I'm here and I'm so grateful to be here. But the one thing you do need to notice about me, as you've probably seen already, is I am a little shy. And oh my gosh, these women, I just get somehow caught in my head, and I just feel like there's so much that I want to tell you, and I want to tell you not to take this personally because this is just me. But I'm trying and I'm fighting for you. And I've been secretly waiting for more time, but I think now that if we don't get that, I've got to use this time more wisely. So here's some things I want you to know about me. Okay, I don't know what those might be. Jess then shares more to her because I just want to make the most of this time that we have together. And oh my gosh, if we get to the point that you were to meet my family, I want you to know this about them. Share more, okay? I'm Jess. I don't have more to share, but share more, okay? So, now, how do you imagine Zach might have felt if Jess had led with that? Okay, you could say, oh, Dr. Diane, that's way too Susie Sunshine. The poor girl's nervous. She has a right to say that. But you can imagine that we wouldn't have seen Zach responding how he is, because I'm thinking about this as a couple. We respond to one another, to the affect, to what's in the room. Okay, so we already know how Zach responded and really what not to do. Okay, Zach is in this position. He is the bachelor. He has to keep Jess or keep her on the hook, thinking that she's going to stay there. Okay, so now I'm Zach. Okay. Excuse this because usually I would put my hair up in my wig. Okay. Okay, here I'm Zach. And now what do I say? Well, Jess, I've missed you too. Thank you for asking. I'm doing so much better and so happy to be here with you. And I did get the sense that you were shy. I totally imagined that. And you know, here's the thing. I imagine how hard this is for you because it's always easier for like the extrovert, the person's out there. And I just get the sense you're more of an introvert. Did I get that right? Oh, okay. So I remember when I was in your shoes and I was on the show, and that one-on-one felt so important and it was so nerve-wracking. But here's something I want to tell you, Jess. Even after you get the one-on-one, what was hardest for me is to see other people progressing in their relationships. And so I cannot forget what it was like to be you. Okay. Can you imagine that scenario happening? Why don't the bachelors, bachelorettes refer back to their old season? I just don't get it. Okay. So now here I am. I'm Jess again. Thank you, Zach, for saying that. I'm so glad you can relate. That makes me feel so much better, just knowing that you can remember what it was like to be in my shoes. Okay. Okay. Pardon the wig. I forget which way this goes. Okay. So, maybe I put this on backwards. It's also true, Jess, that, and I'm not going to lie, I have only so many one-on-ones to give out. And to be honest, you are not incorrect that I actually have been progressing some of these relationships further. Having said that, I know what it's like to be you, and here are your options. If you really wanted to leave now because you don't feel that you feel anything between us, even though I can tell you right now that I do, I want to give that to you. You have you have options. You can leave or you can stay and keep fighting. But I don't want to put you in such a position that makes you so anxious. I can try to calm you down and reassure you and say I feel confident, but you have to feel that too. So I really do appreciate your time. I appreciate that you are putting yourself beyond your comfort zone, but I want to give you the option. And if you did choose to leave, I wouldn't fault you for that. But I do like you. Okay. Wow. Honesty. Woo, what a novel thing. Because we're getting so deep into this kind of like game playing thing that it just, what's happening here is all these conversations just lack authenticity, because we know this is a show, but I just feel like what's missing is sort of like the real feelings. And I think something like that, where both of them were just being more real, could have just gone in completely different ways. Because here's the thing, we have seen people leave at all different points of the show. They leave for work, they leave for their kids, they're not feeling it with The Bachelor, they've walked out. That would not be such an unusual thing. So let's go back to Jess. Now, she is in the limo and she's saying things like, well, obviously it's not so ridiculous that one would want a one-on-one if I'm going to marry this man, right? Okay. That's true. And all of what Jess is saying is true, but I feel like it's a rehearsed sort of cameo, okay? And back to the book on how to make good entrances, but also how to make good exits. And that's the part that just feels like we're doing this Bachelor in Paradise audition, and not like if we had had Zach's response and he was calm and Jess was calm, we wouldn't have that ending, okay? And then if Jess chose to leave because she said, I'm getting so anxious, I just don't feel like I can fight for you, then that would be a mutual decision, right? Because what bothered me and bothered a lot of people is Zach comes back and says, well, I decided to send Jess home. No, Zach, no. The rest of us watch this. Jess decided to leave because she said, you're not going to fight for me, and I'm out. But here's the thing. Again, fight for you. We know that Zach's not going to do that. We already know that Zach has in his pocket his top choices. And if Jess isn't one of them, well, he's not going to respond well to that, because we know he doesn't respond well to drama. And we've seen this before, right? Madison, night one, you're not going to fight for me. Not when I have 30 people. Then we had Bailey. I want a man who's going to fight for me. Who else did we have? We had, we had Madison, we had Bailey, we had Brianna, we had Christina. All these women that are saying, a little bit of Greer, right? I don't think she said that to him directly, but these are the kinds of messages that Zach's not responding to well. And again, when I use the word flooded, this is what I mean. That Zach feels like he doesn't have that to give, because the truth is he's got it for somebody else. He just does. And so asking someone to fight for you that early on is something that of course you should have in a long-term relationship, but the timing of that, we're just not there yet. A man, when he likes somebody else, is he going to fight for you? I like men fighting for you, but let's wait till you're in a relationship with them, and you're not in a relationship yet. At least you're not in a secure, committed relationship. Okay. I hope that was helpful, because I'm really just, again, want to see both sides. And I think both people here just could have done it so much better. And I want you to do it better in your relationships too. If you're leading with so much angst, take a breath, calm yourself down, approach the partner when you can be very clear about what you want. Chances are it's going to go better. If you're feeling flooded, say, I feel like you need something from me right now and I just can't give it. Can I take a time out? Let me take a break. I got to go get a breath. I'll come back and we'll finish talking about this. So many different, better ways to handle that. Which brings me to my reality check. Okay, land the plane. Oh boy, how bad is my hair from flopping on these wigs? Okay, what can we learn? Work on yourself, okay? If you've got a ton of anxiety, you need to calm that down. Check out my courses on how to be more secure. That would be helpful. then listen carefully what your partner's saying. See if you can't help them calm down. You can say, you seem really upset. How can I help? And when both people are calm in this situation, it's going to go 100 times better, trust me. So calm down before you carry on is the advice I'm going to leave you with today. So let me know how you're enjoying my videos. Check out those other videos that I have, because I've been talking all over the place about Zach. And I just want to say, let's keep doing this just a little bit better. Let's make these journeys really work for us in the end by improving our communication skills. Thank you for your time. And I'll see you next week.